Please begin Google for 5 minutes.
Good morning. My name is Sabrina Jeremiah, and I'm joined today by Jason Key, a subject matter expert on search, news, and ads. This committee's work is important, and we have made it a priority to be here to answer your questions. Google has been in Canada for over 20 years, and we are proud of the many ways that we support and partner with Canadian newsrooms. Last year, we linked to Canadian news publishers over 3.6 billion times, helping them make money with ads and subscriptions. This free traffic drove an estimated $250 million in value to publishers. Through Google News Showcase, we've signed agreements that support over 150 Canadian publications, paying for curated content and access to articles that would have otherwise been behind paywalls. And the Google News Initiative provides tools, trainings, and funding to help Canadian news organizations innovate and build stronger, more sustainable business models in the digital age. We have been transparent about our concerns with Bill C-18. We have worked constructively with parliamentarians and offered reasonable and balanced solutions. Unfortunately, C-18 has some very serious problems. C-18 puts a price on free links to web pages, setting a dangerous precedent that threatens the foundation of the open web and the free flow of information, and incentivizes clickbait content over quality journalism. C-18 is intended to encourage voluntary agreements with news publishers, but the exemption and eligibility criteria have shifted so significantly that it would require subsidies to media companies, even if they don't produce news, are not online, and we do not link to their content. There is no clearly defined commitment to a code of ethics for eligibility in the bill, which threatens the standard of journalism in Canada. Unreasonable timelines and unfair arbitration provisions would ensure that any reasonable offer from platforms would be rejected, creating a framework for bad faith bargaining. C-18 would subsidize large legacy organizations and broadcasters and could hurt emerging and innovative players that are providing quality local news in communities across Canada. C-18 is no longer about supporting journalism. Under C-18, platforms would be subject to an uncapped financial liability merely for providing free links to the news that Canadians are searching for. Canadians should be concerned about the potential negative impacts on how they find and share news online. As the bill has worsened each step of the process, we've had to consider what product changes it may require, and potential product changes need to be tested. My colleague, Jason Key, will now share more about the tests.
Companies frequently use hypothesis-driven tests, also known as A/B testing, on a small percentage of real users to collect data about new features or changes before deciding whether to launch them at scale. Google runs over 11,500 tests each year to assess potential changes to search, and only a small fraction of these end up launching. The news tests in Canada were designed to assess potential impacts of C-18 on how news is linked to in certain products. They affect less than 4% of Canadian users. C-18 would radically change the legal framework under which we provide free links to news for Canadians. The bill is a moving target, and we don't know if we will continue to be able to link to news as we do today. So we are testing a range of possible responses. Specifically, due to the vagueness and uncertainty surrounding C-18, we are testing the impact of featuring varying amounts of links to news in our search results based on the scope of the bill. I want to underline, these are just tests. No decisions have been made about product changes. We are simply doing our due diligence in the most responsible way possible. Canadians can still access news sites at any time in a variety of ways, as they always do, including directly through their web browser, dedicated apps, social media, or other means. We want to include news in our products. However, C-18 puts a price on free links to news sites, provides no clarity or certainty as to what that price might be, and requires payment to an extremely broad range of outlets and organizations, even if they don't produce news. This creates maximum uncertainty, disincentivizes voluntary agreements, and moves us further from the shared goal of supporting news in Canada. We remain committed to working constructively with the government on reasonable and balanced solutions that would fix Bill C-18 and contribute to a healthy, innovative, and diverse news ecosystem for the digital age. We welcome your questions.
That was excellent. You had 4 seconds left to go. But thank you. And now what we're going to do is we're going to go into the question and answer segment. And the first round of questions is a 6-minute round. And that includes questions and answers. So again, I urge everyone to be as succinct in your questions and your answers as possible. And so we begin with the Conservatives for 6 minutes. Marilyn Gladu. Marilyn, you have 6 minutes.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to the witnesses for being here today. You've concisely described the concerns you have with C-18. Did you make these concerns known to either the Minister of Heritage or perhaps government members on this committee?
Thank you for the question, Madam Chair. And I do want to start that we do share the goal of promoting a healthy news ecosystem for the digital age that's innovative and diverse. And we have been transparent and collaborative throughout the process. We've offered different types of solutions that could perhaps get to this objective in different ways. And throughout the process, as the eligibility has broadened, as many of the provisions have changed, we have made our input and our feedback very clear. And I can pass to Jason for more input on that.
Thank you. And yes, we have engaged extensively with the Minister's office and a number of others with respect to our key concerns. As Sabrina indicated, we've been actually quite transparent and certainly in our view have offered a range of potential solutions to find a reasonable solve for some of these concerns that would actually maintain the objective of the bill.
In fact, you provided suggested amendments that would address your concerns to the government. Did the government bring any of those amendments forward?
No, during at least the course of the legislative review period of the bill, that none of the amendments that we had proposed to resolve our core concerns, again, predominantly around the making available of news being very broad, including linking that with respect to concerns about the eligibility criteria and the application of codes of ethics, et cetera, were raised during the course of the committee hearings.
Yes, indeed. The Conservatives brought some of the amendments forward because we agreed with some of the concerns about putting a price on links and some of the provisions that might cause misinformation or clickbait to be more prominent on the web. Now, I warned the committee at the time that in other jurisdictions, some of the larger streamers have taken actions to block content. We saw that in Australia with Meta, and there have been several other jurisdictions. Has Google ever blocked content in other jurisdictions?
Thank you for the question, Madam Chair. I just want to make it clear that news is available. If you think about how you access news today, this morning on the way to work, you probably watched some TV, listened to a radio, you went to your app, you visited a social media site, and so on. News is available, and it is available through browsers, and including the Google browser, et cetera. In terms of the differences between this test, and I want to iterate again, this is a test. This is not a product decision. Versus Australia, my colleague Jason is an expert in search, ad, and news, and I'd like to pass to him.
Thank you. And yes, so as Sabrina indicated, this is important to constantly reiterate. This is just a test. There has been no decision made with respect to the outcome of the test. We are literally in a process of trying to gather information to ascertain what the potential impacts of C-18 would be. We routinely conduct these kinds of tests. We make, again, 11,500 tests per year on search. Not surprisingly, some of these kinds of tests do have an impact on news. Many of them are actually intended to actually elevate authoritative content, which would include news content. And so we have conducted these kinds of tests in a variety of jurisdictions. Again, it's normal course for us to conduct these kinds of tests, especially if there's also legislation being introduced into a marketplace, which may have an impact on our products.
Yeah, absolutely. And I certainly share your concerns with the bill. And I have been saying all along that it's not going to help small and local media stations in Canada because even the Parliamentary Budget Officer says that CBC and Rogers and Bell Media will make off with 75% of the money should this go forward. And so the alternate suggested was that organizations would provide funding for small and local media outlets as a group fund that they could sort out amongst themselves. Now, I understand that Google has offered to do some sort of funding in Taiwan. Could you tell me how that came about and describe how that works?
Certainly, I'll be happy to. This is actually a new news innovation fund that we launched in collaboration and a partnership with the Taiwanese government. It was essentially a product of extensive engagement and conversations with respect to the government, who also, like the Canadian government, was looking to see further investment from Google and other similar platforms with respect to the news industry. It was specifically also focused on news innovation. We wanted to ensure that various news publishers were properly transitioning to the digital age and actually were building sustainable business models to ensure that they could actually continue to survive. So we actually engaged in extensive conversations, worked with the Taiwanese government on building this, and then essentially with there is an independent third party called the Taiwanese Digital Prosperity Organization, I believe it is, that is essentially going to administer the fund, and we're basically Google and other platforms will contribute into that fund, and then this independent agency will then administer those funds.
And if the Canadian government was willing to consider a similar type of arrangement, would Google be willing to have those discussions?
30 seconds, Ms. Gladu.
Absolutely. Again, this is actually an innovative model that we welcome, that we actually encourage other jurisdictions to consider and adopt. We have consistently supported the concept of a fund, certainly throughout the Bill C-18 process. In our view, it is a way of resolving some of the core issues that C-18 presents in terms of its structure, but still ensures that large platforms like Google are contributing into a fund that is supporting the news ecosystem, and also ensures that that money is being focused on developing sustainable business models, and also, frankly, ensuring that it's supporting local and regional publications and resolving issues of news deserts that everyone shares a concern about.
Thank you very much.